Yes.
Kai Ferguson, thank you so much for coming on. Now we are
Thank
live.
you for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Looking forward to it.
yeah. So Kai, based here in Southern Oregon, like me, another fellow Rogue Valley boy, um, which we love. Kai Ferguson is a world traveler, photographer, content creator. In the last 3 years, you visited 46 states, 37 countries, and 36 national parks. You've been all over. Kai and I connected on Threads, so maybe the platform does have some value. And I'm really excited to talk about your travel experiences today. I think it'll be a really fun time. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Doing great. I'm actually in Northern California right now, and it finally started raining for the first time. So I can't even see the mountains, and it's actually a beautiful
Wow.
thing that it's not smoke. That is
Yeah,
the reason I can't
That
see
is
them.
always a plus.
man.
Yeah,
So
we just
that
had our
is
first real day of rain today up here in
oh,
Portland.
perfect.
So
Well, there you go.
I feel like the whole
Wait,
West Coast finally got hit.
Yeah.
where are you, Jesse?
I'm in Portland, so
Oh, okay,
Northern
sweet,
Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
not Portland, Maine.
Portland, Oregon.
The
Yeah.
the larger Portland.
um yeah, Kai, have you guys been dealing with all the same smoke? And I mean, there's a lot of fires that are in like central Northern California right now, so I would imagine the same smoke we're getting here in the Rogue Valley you've been getting the last few days.
No, no. You guys are in that valley, so it just all collects in there. So we actually
Us.
haven't had it much at all. Like a couple weeks ago, I came up there and was working on the van a little bit. Well, actually, no. I was just driving through, picking up my mountain bikes, heading up to Canada, and it was super nice. In when I was leaving like Reading area, get up to Medford, and my wife just kept saying over and over again, it looks like it's raining. It looks like it's raining because it was literally just ash falling out of the
Yeah.
sky. And my parents have a view overlooking the Rogue Valley, and they have like these indicators. You either see Table Rock, you know it's fairly clear. You see Coker Butte, and so if Table Rock, if it starts getting more smoky, Table Rock goes away, and then Coker Butte's the next one, and then the Rogue Valley Manor is the next one,
Mm.
and then there's like this pump house that is maybe 120 yards out that you can see, and that is the final indication of
Mm.
you can't see anything. It's
Wow.
just awful.
Don't
So
go outside.
Yeah.
exactly, don't go outside.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I live maybe like a mile from like Roxanne, just like right in the underneath Roxanne. And you always know when like you can't see that anymore. I'm like, oh my goodness, I should be back inside. Like this is not like this is. Yeah,
Taking years off your
So
life.
yeah,
bad. I used to be
absolutely.
for like 5 summers. I was a zipline guide in the Rogue Valley,
Oh, fun.
and we would be out there, the whole summer because that's the boom season for that, and we'd be out there in the smoke. You're just choking, and we had, they supplied us with the face masks and whatnot, but at some point you're like, you know what, it is what it is, and we would just
Yeah.
not wear it, and it was yeah, I don't. It was so I don't know. I guess either I have a smoker's lung or I'm invincible. I don't know, but
One or
those
the
were
other.
the
One or the other.
Yeah.
nothing really can get as close to that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I think like before I moved to the Rogue Valley, I didn't understand like what people meant when they were like, "Oh, it's just like smoky." It's like I don't understand that. And then like living here, it's like, "Oh, seriously, it looks like it's cloudy, overcast, but it's
yeah,
smoke." Like it's just, yeah, it's brutal.
so
It's brutal.
bad, so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Don't miss that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my least favorite parts about living in the Rogue Valley. No question. No question. But okay, Kai, you've been to
Yeah.
46 states. You're missing
Yes.
four. Which four are you
Missing
missing?
four. So I'm missing Mississippi, Louisiana, West Virginia, and Vermont.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Interesting.
Have
Yeah.
those because a couple of those are pretty close. Mississippi, Louisiana, and then West Virginia's mean, not that. I mean,
Not too
it's not
far.
that far from those two. It's the same like region of the country, right? And then Vermont's
No,
kind of
no, it's not.
what? No, it is. It is.
It's pretty
A
close.
map. I literally just did a geography test for some friends last night because we have a map of the U.S. on our van on the side, and it was fairly embarrassing how little.
Oh shoot!
I mean,
It's not
they did
close
all
at
right, but it was
all.
not great. It was not great. Yeah,
It's
no,
gotta be like what, 3 states away from Mississippi?
No, Jesse, stop talking.
no.
You got
Gotta get through-
Georgia, and then
You
Well,
gotta
I
get through
guess
like
South Carolina, North Carolina, and then West Virginia
I guess if you count Tennessee,
and Virginia.
I guess if you count Tennessee,
and
it is-
Virginia.
it is
That's
like here.
that's
Here we
fair.
go. We got our U.S. map here. So we got Mississippi, Louisiana.
It's not that far.
This is West Virginia,
don't
bro.
know.
That's pretty far.
Actually,
I was
it is the
one of
exact midway
Carolinas.
point.
I was thinking one of the Carolinas. West Virginia is far from
it's
Mississippi,
kind of the
Louisiana.
it's kind of the exact midpoint between Vermont and Mississippi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of is. It kind of is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome to Geography Wars.
Seriously.
We
Sorry
debate
to our
facts.
audio only folks. You just go look up a U.S. map or just be better educated than me. Um, okay, so Kai, why not?
Yes.
Have you?
Why those four?
Yeah,
Oh.
have those been purposeful?
It wasn't
skips or-
intentional. It wasn't intentional. West Virginia. So when we were on the East Coast, we were trying to do all the national parks on the East Coast, which there
Okay.
isn't many. Okay,
Yeah.
there's only a handful. And West Virginia, when we were first, organizing it, didn't have one. But then I guess recently they actually have a national park. It's the newest national park. I think it was like 2019 or 2020 that it came out. So we just
I love the idea
like-
of like a national park getting launched. Like I guess that happens, but that's hilarious to me. Like,
yeah, but yeah, so we just were like, we are kind of on a time frame. We had to get down to Disney World because my cousin was working there and all my other cousins were going because, when somebody works at Disney World, you got to go take advantage of
Yeah,
the prices.
Take
So,
advantage of that
yeah.
for sure.
So we had to get down there and stop at Duke in North Carolina University to see one of my best friends growing up. So that was really fun. But yeah, we just passed through because we were like New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. So we just didn't pop over there. And then when we drove around it, we did Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Sorry, my wife's cooking.
no, you're good. We
She's
can't really
almost
hear it.
done, though, so don't
Can't really
worry.
hear
It's gonna be delicious. But yeah, so it wasn't intentional. It was no, hard feelings towards West Virginia. It wasn't in the cards that day. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever been or?
No.
Okay,
That's
those
why it's
four
one
are
of the
all-
four that I haven't been to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jesse, that was the,
Couldn't figure
that's
that
the
was
basis of this question, bro.
I couldn't figure out if that was part of in the last 3 years or not.
Oh.
No. Haven't been. And then Mississippi and Louisiana. I guess the only reason, who knows? I'm probably super wrong, or somebody's going to tell me. But also, I've heard I'm not too wrong that Louisiana, you only go to Louisiana to go to New Orleans. So that was like a really long drive down there because we were in the north. We were Arkansas, Tennessee, and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We just didn't do it. It's like, okay, the only reason I need to go there is I'll fly to New Orleans, check it out, hang out, and then Mississippi probably knock it off too. But I saw
Just
the
while you're
Mississippi
close.
River when I was going through. So.
halfway the country.
Well, yeah, the Mississippi
most
River
of the country
not
is
really close
touched
to
by the Mississippi
for most
River.
of it, yeah, but
Yeah.
Louisiana. The only reason I've been is New Orleans, which was a blast. That was a very cool city to go visit, but yeah, have not been to the rest of the state. But I've visited everything west of the Mississippi, and east of the Mississippi. I've got like 3, but
I can confidently say though, the West Coast is the best coast. So, yeah, that definitely.
It is pretty lit out here.
I've seen it all. I don't really need to go back to the east side.
Okay.
Man, is that okay? So is that like because you've put an emphasis on national parks, right? That's one of the things you've talked about. Follow you on Instagram and the threads and stuff. Like you're very outdoorsy, right? A lot of the East Coast, the big draw is like New York, Boston, Miami, like the big cities, right? That are on the East Coast there.
Yeah,
Have you been to like the big cities and that's just like not your speed, or is it more because there's like a lack of the like biodiversity that the West Coast has?
definitely lack of the biodiversity. We've been to, Boston was cool. New York's cool to see. Um, but I only needed to see it, once. Maybe I maybe go to Boston again. Boston was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Um, but yeah, it's also like when you drive on the West Coast. I'm a big mountains guy. Even
Mm.
not necessarily
Mhm.
hiking in the mountains is not exactly what I'm. Obviously, that is part of it. But when you're driving and exploring, which a lot of people, since we're in the U.S., you have to drive to see anything.
Yeah, you do.
Um, on the West Coast, you're like in awe because you're like, oh, mountains, oh, trees, oh, river. Like it's just so gorgeous and hilly, mountainous. When you drive over there, you drive straight, and the trees are taller than anything around you. So all you
Oh,
see is like this tunnel. You're in this tunnel, and you can't see anything around you poking up. So it's just like so boring to drive.
Mhm.
yeah,
Or you're in the Midwest, and it's just flat, just you can't you just see the horizon the entire time.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
in the West Coast, it's
And
like
corn.
and corn.
yeah.
Corn was
Soybeans as well. Yeah.
everywhere, everywhere. It was
Corn's not
so
a whole
fun.
lot to look at though. Like,
Right.
No, when you're in part of the country that they are mowing the side of the freeways with big old John Deere or New Holland tractors, and then leaving bales of hay on the side of the freeway, I don't know if that's my speed.
that's a different kind of country than what than the U.S. that I live in. Like that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus, as a van life, like when you're driving in a van, you stand out. There's like not many vans when you
Mm.
get east at all.
Oh,
And van
interesting.
life is also a lot harder. Like there's not as much public land that you can go and camp on, which is really nice about the West Coast. Is we have so much, national forest,
Yeah.
public lands, all that. But over there isn't much. And then you stand out more because there's not as many van lifers. And literally, like the moment we were coming back west. The moment we hit Colorado, it was like a home welcoming where we were like just one like another because there was vans everywhere, and it was like
Mm.
literally you
Mhm.
hit the border and boom, you're like, I'm home, van life,
Wow.
let's go. I can go anywhere. It's just
Wow.
really funny how that flipped just like that. We're like, okay, van, 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 van,
Yeah.
everywhere.
That's fun. That's wow. I guess that is like talking about how nice it is to drive in different parts of the country. Like I guess in on the West Coast, like or not even the coast, but just the west half of the US, like there are so many national parks. There's so much nature all around. Everything is
Yeah,
way more spread out than the East Coast. Like the West Coast, like living in Medford, I'm like a 4-hour drive to Portland. I'm like a 6-hour drive to like San Fran. And there's not a whole lot between those, right? Like you run through like Salem or Eugene or like Reading or something, but those are like not that big, right? I mean, even Medford's
no,
not that big, right? Whereas on the East Coast, like if you drive 10 hours, that's like that's like Miami to Atlanta. You cross like 3 states or something, right? Like and you can go through like so many big cities on the way because everything's just more
yeah,
condensed. Whereas like
Mhm.
on the West Coast, it's like no, like there is so much more like I-5 is a gorgeous drive for most of it because there's like mountains around and you're just like out in out in nature for a lot of it. Whereas like the
yeah,
East Coast, you're like city, 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 just like back
And
to
even
back.
just looking at like the road maps that like from the top down is like you get about like halfway through the country and it's like there's so many freeways and it's just like a grid of you could get anywhere from anywhere to anywhere, and then you're trying to plan a road trip out like around Montana, and it's like you got maybe two options. There's just not the roads every which direction
No.
west of kind of the Rockies,
Yeah.
which adds so much to the culture either way, right?
Yeah.
Which did you? I don't know. I saw this as like a meme, but most people don't know this. But do you know how our highways are set up in the
Uh,
U.S.?
Uh,
that it's like even numbers versus odd numbers. They're like,
Yes.
yeah, that I would have to think about it.
no,
Yeah,
evens go east to west, odds go north
odds
to
run
south.
north south,
And then
and
it
Yeah.
goes. It's not numerical, but
5,
it 5,
15,
and then
25. Yeah.
it gets larger going west to east, and then
yeah,
ooh, I just,
Larger going south to north, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
90 is Seattle to
90 to
Boston.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So my fun little interstate fact is in Texas there is an interstate. I want to say it's interstate 20 maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but there's an interstate that does not go interstate. It is only in Texas.
Man,
Oh, interstating.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
That's wild. Okay, I saw this wild fact about Texas today. So Texas has a Paris, Texas, and also a London, Texas. And Paris, Texas to London, Texas is something like 330, 340 miles between the two. Paris, France to London, United Kingdom is like 270 miles. Like it's a shorter distance from Paris, France to London than it is Paris, Texas to London, Texas, which is just
Oh, that's so
that
funny.
state's massive.
That's amazing.
It's like half the size of Europe. Like,
Well, that's funny because when we were in Europe, everybody's talking about driving and whatnot, and how like how do you guys drive so much? And we'd kind of compare, or they'd say, I actually asked this van life guy in Austria. I said, so what's like your limit that you would drive in a day straight, where you would have to take a break? And he goes, oh, probably like 7 or 8 hours. I was like, okay. And then like, when could you drive again? He's like, oh, I'd probably have to wait like 3 or 4 days to
whoa.
drive that again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's nothing. That is nothing.
Yeah.
No, I'd drive that 4 days in a row to get where I need to go. Like,
Exactly. And sometimes you're still not where you need to go. Well,
yeah.
over 4 days, you better at least make it to the other side of the states. You should be able to, if you're really bombing it, to get there in like 3.5 days.
4 days driving like 8-10 hours a day. Like, you've been driving 40 hours. You should be where you're going.
Yeah. Oh, you should. Okay, pull up that map again one more time.
Yeah.
Just so
Yeah.
we're talking about driving multiple days in a row, since we did this last summer. Okay, so we drove from Medford and we drove to Chicago. Okay, Chicago is considered Midwest. Look how east that thing is.
Bro.
It's so freaking far. And we drove through Nevada, Salt Lake, southern Wyoming, up into South Dakota to go to Mount Rushmore. And then we drove along the border of Iowa and Minneapolis, dropped down through Wisconsin into Chicago. And that felt like the longest drive I've ever experienced in my life.
Man.
It's just so emptiness. And the whole time we're like, we should be Midwest right now, but we're going so far east. There's no way this is considered the Midwest. Where we were like, we were like in Wyoming. We're in like Wyoming and even in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and we're like, we could turn around and go home and still make it home before we got to Chicago. It felt like, because it was just so far. Like, this is stupid.
And you've been driving for like 20 hours or something.
It was 20 something hours, yeah.
Wow.
And we were putting in miles and hours every single day. So that we're like, this is not Midwest.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
of
was
course-
kind of mind blown the other day to realize that Ohio borders Pennsylvania, because in my mind, Ohio was like where Iowa is. But it's
Yeah.
like, no, it is one state away from the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
because anything that's not East Coast is immediately considered Midwest.
Yeah,
So
which just
nuts.
is wild. And like I think it's yeah, like culturally that's probably similar. I don't know. I can't really speak to the culture over there because have lived on this coast for my whole life. But it's like, man, how the hell do you call like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois? How's this Midwest? Like if you draw a line,
Midwest, yeah.
yeah, like if you draw a line like down the center of the country, everything to the east of that line should not be considered the West. Like that
No,
Right.
just
that's but middle west. It's the middle
yeah,
going west.
that's true.
So I mean, it has its dues, especially if we're on the Oregon Trail. But
Yeah,
I don't know if
Yeah.
it still holds true, but it is what it is. But yeah, it
yeah,
is so far away, so far.
it is.
But it was
Yeah.
fun.
It
It's
is.
wild. It's just so wild how big the US is just in general.
Hmm.
Like
It is. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
could
I
throw
think
up a
so. Like,
comparison of Europe to the U.S.
Europe to Texas.
yeah,
Europe to
yeah,
Texas, yeah. It's like
yeah.
you go into Russia from UK all the way across to somewhere in Russia is like the size of the US.
Oh
And
my
you've probably
goodness.
gone through like 30 something countries right there.
hmm
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
It's
Nuts.
wild. Yeah. So
I'm
like
also
talking.
always shocked, like, oh, mm. I'm always shocked, like, how many languages you go through when you're, like, in Europe.
Mm,
So, yeah, so that brings up such a good point because growing up, I'm sure sometimes you felt this way too. You're like, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I only know one language compared to somebody in Europe, right?" Well,
Yeah.
so that was something that got brought up a lot when we were traveling Europe, and then we would kind of explain, well, you got to well, then we started thinking like, "Oh, well, it kind of makes more sense why we only learn one language is because you go through 50 states and even including Canada
yeah.
and everybody is speaking the exact same language. You go through even the Balkans. So let's talk about the Balkans, right? So that's
Yeah.
Greece, Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Bosnia, Serbia. Those countries are super small, like smaller. I don't know how to. North Macedonia is like the
They're
size of
probably
Connecticut or something.
West Virginia size. Yeah.
Yeah, they're tiny, and every single one of those countries has a language or a dialect that they speak that you have to learn. It's like literally, if I drove 2 hours, I'd be in another language.
Yeah.
So
hmm
then we kind of have to. Well, this is why you would have to learn another language. But over there, like English is the second language that's super common that
Hmm.
people will speak as their common language. Whether if you're like a German and you're Greece, um, if you're Greek, you would speak English to each other if that was your
hmm
common language together. So in some ways, we would feel stupid because we only know one language, but other people would say, "Well, you actually have a foot up because you can understand and you can talk to almost anybody in Europe because
Right.
they
Right.
most likely will speak English and you can make out what they're saying." So that was kind of a
Hmm.
flip. But obviously, still feel pretty dumb that we only know one language. So
Yeah.
yeah, but definitely jealous
Yeah.
of that. So
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like if you think about it, if every state had its own language, like I would know more than
mm,
just one, right?
oh yeah,
But
yeah,
they don't. They all speak largely the same language, right? And even though you've got like pockets of the country that like speak different languages as like primary, it's still like pretty much like most people in the US do speak English, right? And like the
yeah,
majority for sure do, right? And so, yeah, growing up in Washington, like I was exposed to other languages, but I never needed to learn them. And then like
yeah,
moving to Washington or moving to Oregon, I didn't have to learn a second language to move. Like they just speak everything the same, right? And it's
yeah.
the way that the world has evolved.
Right. Well, and like I do speak Spanish. I studied it in
Oh,
high
look at
school and
me.
college,
I'm
and then
just
and then studied abroad in Costa Rica. But getting back into living in Oregon, it takes consistent effort to find communities that do speak Spanish to even
Yeah.
stay up to date on it. Um, just because it's so easy to find people who speak English, and even like a lot of my Spanish speaking friends are like, well, yeah, I'm practicing my English, or are just happy to be speaking English because they speak it also as a full fluent language.
Hmm.
Totally.
So
Totally.
it's even
Crazy.
like it takes a lot of effort to even be keeping up with it. Whereas in other countries, it's like pop down the pop on the train and then you're just fully immersed again.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Different way.
So Kai,
Kai, I want to bring this back to like
yeah,
your travel experiences. Jesse, don't give me
Yeah.
that glare. Don't give me that glare, Jesse. Okay. Kai, I want to bring this back. What has been like seeing 46 states, 37 countries, 36 national parks? You've been around, you've seen a lot, right? What has been as far as like popular destinations, something like Paris, France, or like maybe like Berlin, or some of these like well-known cities that it's like you can Google an itinerary for, right? What has been
Yeah.
like a spot like that that maybe has like lived up to the hype for you?
Oof. You guys are gonna get me some flack on this one from communities here. Um, so I would say, well, one of my favorite cities that I didn't even know that was so cool, but is pretty popular, is Edinburgh in
Hmm.
Scotland. That like blew my mind away. I loved it. It was gorgeous. It just felt like you're walking through, I don't know, Harry Potter, Sherlock Holmes. Like it was just, I don't. It was just gorgeous. It was just a beautiful, beautiful city. I'd say Barcelona was super
Hmm.
amazing. You have to go to Barcelona. It's gorgeous. We walked like 17 miles in a day in
gosh,
Barcelona, just exploring it all. Still didn't even see it all. It was so gorgeous. And then what a there's got. I mean, there's so many different things that go into it, but I guess one that is hyped up. Well, you say Paris, and honestly, I do not like Paris. So I do not like Paris, and I do not like Munich. I don't need to
Hmm.
go to any of those,
mm,
and I also don't need to go to Madrid ever again. But I also spent like that's where we had an apartment for 3 months. So
Hmm.
Madrid's airport was fantastic. Being in Madrid for like a week was really cool. But then after that, it comes down to like you're only going out to the club, you're going out to drink, and you're going shopping or something. Like you're not
mm.
doing anything else than that. Like one of the top things to do when you look at TripAdvisor on Madrid is to look at all the statues, count the statues. I'm like, what? No,
That's
no,
a
I don't.
one-time thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's like a very niche group of people that want to go do that.
Yeah, not the
So
most engaging activity for a day.
no, no. But it was. I mean, it was cool. Madrid was cool. It's the capital. Blah blah. Real Madrid is awesome. But yeah. So I guess overhyped would definitely be Madrid, Munich, and Paris.
Yeah. No, I
I love
appreciate
it.
that
But
because I think one of the things that like because we've had a couple of like travel people, I don't know, travelers,
Aficionados.
yeah,
yeah,
travel folks on this podcast in the before, and like one of the things that like has come up as a consistent theme is that the tourist destinations that you see on Instagram and that are like the most popular and the most well known are kind of the most disappointing also, that they're
yeah,
not the
yeah,
ones that they like are itching to go back to Paris, France, for an example. They're like, no, I want to go to some other place that's not as popular as Paris, France. Like,
I will say, pro, it just now is popping up, but it's one of the best the best city that would be like a tourist place is Rome. Like,
Mm.
Mm.
and that's ironic that I'm speaking this since it's the meme going around that how often does a male think about the Roman Empire,
Yeah.
right? But without that meme out there, I don't even know how that got started. But
Yeah, I don't know.
Rome is literally a walking museum. You can walk everywhere. It's just insanely well kept. Everywhere you
Mhm.
look, you're in awe of how gorgeous it is. You have bottles of Chianti
Mm.
everywhere. You're just drinking wine. You have gelato everywhere. Every corner you turn is just gorgeous.
Mm.
It was so fun and so walkable, just so walkable the whole place. So I would say Rome. And my wife has
Cool.
this whole trip. If you were to go to Europe and you only had 10 days, one of the best ones you could do is fly into Rome, take the train to Florence, go up to Venice, because you can train, rent a car, go up to the Italian Dolomites, Dolomiti. It's amazing, mind blowing. Best, my favorite place in the world right now has to be northern Italy, the Dolomites, and then you drive back. You could pop over to Slovenia for a day. Slovenia is pretty sick. Come back down to Venice and then fly out of Venice. But that's an amazing trip right there. But yeah, Rome was fantastic. Bye, Joel. He's on his way to
Oh
Rome.
no. He's inspired. Uh yeah, I don't know what happened there. Um
Cool sound effects though. It's like he's a Power Ranger,
yeah.
zipping, zapping.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I love
He
it.
put on the
I
ring of
didn't
power.
get any of that.
You'll have to
As
listen to this really cool podcast, and you can get filled in.
yeah. uh, okay,
Well, that
sorry
that
about my
does that does
back.
inspire me, Kai, to hop on a plane to Rome, and then I've heard
Yeah,
really good things about the Dolomites.
it's
And
amazing.
I do feel like in a lot of the travel people I've talked to, because I haven't been to mainland Europe, but a lot of the one that does consistently come up is like just explore all around Italy
Yeah.
and enjoy every minute of it. Um, Speaking of Italy, I think one of the things that first pops up about Italy is like the food, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
Americans like Italian
Pasta.
food more than anything else, right? Just in general, like food is a super key piece of culture, and uh, it tells stories, it unites people, it connects people. What has been one of the most like memorable meal experiences that you've experienced while traveling?
Um. So that's an interesting question, and why it is because we're not like so. For me, I will eat anything, and I will tell you it's one of the best things I've ever had, or it's amazing because I just enjoy it. Like it's good. I will eat anything. I'm the easiest person to please when it comes to food. Um, with that said, also when we were doing Europe, it was also on a budget. Like we were going cheap,
Mhm.
so we weren't. You know, if we were eating at the best stuff the entire time for 9-10 months, I would have gone broke. We were making a lot of food
Yeah.
on our own or just doing it cheap, which in a lot of countries you can do it pretty cheap. But we would usually try a traditional meal in every. Well, we did. We had a traditional meal in every country that we went to.
Hmm.
Um, in Italy, obviously, you're having pizza, pasta, which their pizza it's amazing. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't understand. Never order. Well, this was funny. I asked for a pepperoni because like I don't know what's the best because it was the first night that we got there. I was like pepperoni, and this guy just went off on me like so American. You're doing this, blah blah. And then I go to another restaurant like 2 days later, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, pepperoni. It's my favorite." I'm like, "What the heck? Why did I get all this crap from this guy?" Like I mean, he was kind of moody, anyways. But yeah. But so best food experience was actually I was thinking about this when I was going over some notes. Um, I'd have to say in Greece. We were in Crete on the island of Crete, and this isn't like we were out for dinner. We had an Airbnb. It was this amazing old man that literally any woman would just die for. He had the perfect tan skin, he had the white hair. He was the most interesting man in the world. We could not communicate with him, but this guy first of all, he has like we open up the fridge and it's just this Greek salad. It's cheese that has honey and walnuts on it. It has avocados with glaze over the top, and it was just amazing. Next morning, he has it outside our door. He brings it down. We have it
Oh.
again. We're like, this is so good, so good. Like it was just incredible. And then the dude, he comes up to the window and he knocks and kind of scares the heck out of us. This is one of the days we had already had a few drinks that day because we were at the beach, and he knocks on the window. So he we open the window. This is like a movie. Open the window, and he's serving us this homemade uh, alcohol that he made himself, and it's in like a bottle that doesn't look like anything. But oh no, what's it called? Rocky. It was Rocky, which
Hmm.
Rocky's homemade. It's super freaking strong, and his was really really good. And he sat there, filled it up. It's me, him, my wife's best friend, and then our other friend from Canada who we had met in Spain. So, and we're just out there just having a great time. And then second meal was also in Greece, which we had it like 3 times. We had moussaka, and
Wow.
moussaka is like a lasagna but made with eggplant, and it's served in
Oh.
like this
Oh.
hot steamy bowl thing, and it's just incredible. It was so good. I think about that quite often. So I'd say
Hmm.
that has to be one of the top meals that we had for sure. um and yeah, you eat a lot of things that you don't want to know where it came from sometimes, and it's still good. You're like, I don't know what this kitchen is going to be like back there. But mainly like with the meals that I think of weren't necessarily like the best tasting. Well, the moussaka was, but it's not
Mhm.
like the best, not necessarily the best tasting meals that come to mind. It's the people that you were with
Yeah.
Mhm.
that come to mind, because I could name, oh well, one of my best meals was this little tiny village that we almost got stuck on the train twice because we didn't have cash, and it's cash only. It was this little village in Austria, and we walk into this local pub. It's the only thing open because there's only like 4 things in this town anyways. And we walk in, it's all these locals just rocking out to like 80s American hard rock music. And we
Oh, hell
walk in, we're
yeah.
like, oh, do you have a menu? And he goes, um, oh gosh, why? Oh, only Wiener Schnitzel. We're like, do you have anything else? He's like, Wiener Schnitzel. We're like, okay, we're having Wiener Schnitzel. And then he's like, anything to drink? Or he didn't even say that much English, but basically he was asking what we want to drink, and we're like, what do you have? He's like, beer. And we're like, what kind of beer? He's like, beer. We're like, okay, we'll
Great.
have beer. And this guy comes out with Wiener Schnitzel, and it's a three. He brings out 3 plates. There's 5 of us. Brings out 3 plates, and each plate has 3 things of Wiener Schnitzel on it, and they're massive. Like they got to be, IHOP pancake size, probably 2 pancakes big each.
Wow.
Each one. And
Wow.
there's 3 on the plate. And we're like, oh, snap. Like, well, we ordered 5, but 3, this must be good. So this must be the split, right? So we start eating it, eating it. 5 minutes later, he brings out 2 more plates of this stuff. We're like, what the heck? This is insane. And we had 2 beers each. We had all that Wiener Schnitzel we took home. That Wiener Schnitzel, uh, we got 3 or 3.5 meals out of that after
Wow.
we had already
Wow.
eaten. And it was like I think $8 a plate plus
Mhm.
the beer,
Wow.
so $8 for all the Wiener Schnitzel plus 2 beers. So that was a really fun memory that comes to mind. Um, and there's a couple others that I could think of too, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not like super foodie, but that's like those are 2 examples of like the people that we were with just help that experience. And
Mhm.
honestly, you're in
Yeah.
Europe, most experience isn't the food necessarily, it's also like the beer you're drinking. So
Right.
like that's what a lot of it was going out with, and their beer is kind of like they all taste the same, just is brewed differently, and or brewed in a different city in a different country with their own brand. It's honestly, it's light beer. There isn't IPA. It's either light beer or there's dark beer, and it all tastes relatively the exact same, but it was still good. It's still good.
I love it. I love it. And I love that, like, I love that you called out that it's not just the food that matters, but it's the people that you're with and it's the experience of it. Because I think especially as you're traveling, like you should be open to that it's not always like your best experience is not necessarily going to be the food that if you're eating it alone in the dark is the best food, right? Like it doesn't necessarily mean that it tastes the best or that it's, prepared the finest or anything like that, but that it's the full experience that, yeah,
Mhm.
maybe you're going to eat things that you didn't expect to like, but the service is so fun and like the people you're with is a blast that like that really sets it apart. Like one of my favorite meal experiences traveling was in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and it was with a group. There was like 20, 22 of us, something like that. We show up to this restaurant called Chef's Pride. They had no idea that 20 people 20 Americans were showing up. They panic and we're like, no, we just want to eat. So they put us upstairs in it. This is not like a dining area. This is just, they have an upstairs that they don't really use. They're like pulling tables out of other rooms to like put together. They're pulling chairs out to like shove them in here because they're like, we gotta fit 20 people at this table. We didn't know this was coming.
Yeah.
And they cram us in there. They take all our order all at once, and then food just starts coming out. Food comes out for probably 45 minutes because
Oh
they
my.
like they have, and they don't remember who ordered what. We don't remember who ordered what. They're just showing up with plates of food. The food was mediocre. They're showing up with plates of food and they're just passing it down. We're like, all right, I don't really know what we're looking at. Who wants this? Somebody's claiming it. We're passing it around. That's maybe the most fun meal that I've had in my life. Like,
Yeah.
I top. Also, that food not good. Like that was not food that like that food. If I was served that food, like if I got that food on DoorDash, be the most disappointing meal of my life. But
On DoorDash.
it
This
was a
guy.
blast. Like it was so fun, right? Because of the full experience that went with
Yeah.
it. So, unfortunately, the episode is cut off at this point. We had some problems with the actual recording of it, and there was an issue with the files. So, we have a little bit of an abrupt end to this episode. But thanks for tuning in, and thank you for listening. I hope you learned some stuff from Kai about travel and about the way that he's experienced the world and some of the things that he looks for when he's going abroad and how he makes that happen. So, appreciate your time today. Appreciate you jumping on and appreciate you listening to this. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you do like the show, give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening on. That helps us out a lot. Check us out on YouTube or whatever it is that you want to do. And let us know what you think. Shoot us a text at 503-893-2664 and let us know what you think of this show, and we'll be back with another episode next week.